welcome to Let's Talk Nation. I'm your man, Rod Love, and we have the General Attorney Greg Jackson here in the studio. And Greg, man, what was going on this weekend, brother?
Listen, man, once again, it's on. Hey, this weekend was interesting weekend. I mean, it depends on which route you want to take on it. I mean, they had the Pro Bowl this weekend. I know that.
I didn't check any of that out. Did you?
Wasn't nothing to check out, man.
But it was a different kind. I mean,
It wasn't nothing to check out.
Greg, Pro Bowl has changed.
Yeah, I mean, listen. As a matter of fact, when I saw it, I took a couple young men to the hockey game yesterday, and when I was watching it like on the television, because I had like little television, it took me back to and remember this if you will, February of 2020.
February 2020. Okay.
February 2020, Pro Bowl in the city of Orlando, the city beautiful. Brother Love and Greg Jackson on the sideline of the Pro Bowl.
Now I remember. Yeah.
On the sideline of the Pro Bowl, Brother Love and Greg Jackson.
Now I remember.
And the reason why I went back to that, Brother Love, is because I was like, wait a minute, this does not look anything like the Pro Bowl that we attended, because now the Pro Bowl, as opposed to them padding up and playing, is
It's all gimmicks.
it's flag football.
Flag football. Who can catch with monster hands and.
I mean, yeah, they had like a kicking contest where different skill sets or different skill positions would try to kick a ball into these cylinders to get points and all this other stuff. So I mean, it was it's not, imagine if NBA All-Star Weekend had everything except for the actual NBA All-Star game that everybody looks for.
And you're right, but here's something that, Greg, I have noticed with the NBA All-Star Weekend. And remember when you used to look forward to the slam dunk contest?
Yeah.
You don't have, but again, all this falls, and I don't know if I can kind of speak, against the Greg, but these guys are making so much money now that I think even the league is saying, is it worth them playing in an actual Pro Bowl game, getting hurt, and some of them permanently getting hurt out for the season when you look at the kind of money they're making?
I mean, I get it, I understand, but are they going full speed in the Pro Bowl game anyway?
No.
I mean, it's just like, if the NBA All-Star game is any indication of what takes place, I mean, that's like the highest scored game in the history of basketball, because
Nobody's
playing defense. I mean, listen, you get your three, you get your. I mean, the game ends up being 150, 170 points per side, because people, they want to see their favorite players playing the way that they see them playing every Sunday. And this flag football layout, I mean, listen, I like I said, I get it, but this is, I don't know how long it's going to last.
My last recollection, man, and it goes back to something you said. NBA All-Star Game is Michael Jordan soaring, winning the slam dunk contest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the last real NBA All-Star Game was probably the last game that Kobe Bryant played, because he was probably the only guy that was still playing as if this was a regular game for him. And so, those games are not those games, but those days are quickly slipping behind us, Brother Love.
Mm-hmm.
The league and everything else is getting a little more soft, if you ask me.
You can't touch the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, in some respects, I get it. But listen, I mean, if Jordan played under these conditions, he probably would have averaged 70 points a game. If Bo Jackson played under these conditions, or Barry Sanders or Emmitt Smith played under these conditions, they'd probably still be playing, to tell you the truth, and have Eric Dickerson would have had multiple 2,000-yard seasons and everything else, and Doug Williams, who the first black NFL quarterback to win a Super Bowl, would probably still be playing. You know what you come to when you say that?
What? When you hear people ask about who is the GOAT, you got to look at these different eras. Jordan them played, man, when they played.
Yeah.
And not saying anything against LeBron James, but you're talking about some serious different eras.
Listen, that's what I'm saying. I mean, truth be told, if you put the kids in this generation up against kids in our generation, we would we'll take them to the woodshed every time, because
you're right.
One hard hit and they want to cry and they want to whine about it. Whereas us, it was like, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and keep on moving.
If I had to pick one of those latter day teams, Greg, to play against the new age NBA,
Yeah.
I would get the bad boys to
Oh.
play.
Oh,
Great.
oh, and the Showtime Lakers. So listen, I'll take any team from the 90s
Yeah.
against this current team in terms of toughness. I mean, think about the New York Knicks.
Yeah.
Think about Detroit, the bad boy Detroit players. Think about the Trailblazers with Clyde the Glide. I mean, think about
You go way back, yeah.
Think about virtually any team that was playing back then. I mean, think about Reggie Miller when he was playing with the Pacers. Any of those teams, in terms of toughness and mental toughness and playing through all of the adversities of the game and the reps.
Think about James Worthy and them boys.
Man, James Worthy, Kurt Rambis, AC Green.
Oh, you bring up Rambis, man. He was tough.
Yeah, listen, and those were the guys coming off the bench to play with Kareem and Magic.
You're right.
I mean, listen, man, I get it.
Y'all left out.
These younger kids,
y'all
they
left
don't
out
understand
Bill
the
Laimbeer.
level of play that they had to put up with at that time. This is a totally different league. I
Yeah.
get it, but
Wait, y'all
Yeah.
y'all left some people out. Anthony Mason,
Oh, we left out a lot of people. You right. Yeah.
Bill
He was in New
Laimbeer.
York, right? Wasn't he in New York?
Yeah, but New York.
Yeah.
But listen. We can't have this conversation. All honesty and truth. We can't have this conversation if we don't mention Dennis Rodman.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the word.
I mean, listen, 6'9", the lead leader in rebounds.
If you bring up Dennis, who was Charles? What's your boy that played for New York?
Oakley.
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 the enforcer.
Yeah, the enforcer.
Hey, who was still beating up players at the coach? You heard that? He was beating them up when he was the coach.
Ron Artest. Shoot.
Oh man, listen, man, it was a
Meta World Peace.
See, this segment of the show should have been reserved for Greg Jackson Sr.
Oh,
I
man.
know he could come in here and tell us about. But Greg, something else you mentioned, and before we leave this sports piece,
Yeah,
you said you went to a hockey game.
yeah, I was going to hockey game.
So, I learned. You taught me about the penalty.
I was going to hockey game.
You do. So did you see much?
Oh man, they were fighting all night last night. I was like, man, I really came to a fight that happens to be a hockey game. But I mean, that's because the Solar Bears right now. And listen again, thank you to my good friend Rod Love, who introduced me to Mr. Siegel.
Yeah.
Who was at one point in time the owner of the Solar Bears, who sparked my interest in going to a Solar Bear game, and now I am a 2-year season ticket holder. And like I was saying, from time to time, I use it for business purposes.
Yeah.
We never got to write that off on our taxes. Also, young men who've never experienced stuff like that, I like to take them out and experience stuff like that. And last night, Brother Love, the Solar Bears won in double overtime. There were probably 6 or 7 fights.
But you taught me about that penalty piece, and I don't know if Doc knows about this. How many players on the field on the ice at one time?
Got 7.
7. So if you get sent to the penalty box,
Oh yeah, and yeah, you don't get to put somebody else in.
see, you educated me.
Yeah. And so last night, matter of fact, the other team, because the Solar Bear player and the Everglades player, they were fighting, so they got a 5-minute penalty. One of the other guys for the Everglades, he had actually, I forgot what the infraction was, but he had 10 minutes in the box. So when the 5 minutes ran out for the Solar Bear player,
So the one guy gets out, but then the other guy got 5 more minutes in there. So Greg, can 2 players get penalized?
they did. That's what I'm telling you.
No, I'm talking about from the same team.
I just told you that.
Oh,
yeah.
oh.
Because one was in there for 5, one was in there for 10 minutes.
So the
And
other
on the
team,
Solar Bear side, we only had one guy in there for 5 minutes. And
so you can be
yeah,
outmanned.
yeah. So what they do is they call that a power play, or if you score when you are one man down, then that's called a hat trick. Listen, man. Listen.
You gonna make me go, Greg? You gonna make me go to the game, Greg? So man, let's bring people up to speed, Greg.
But the only way we can bring them up to speed, brother.
Let people know who they're listening to.
The only way to do that is we let them know is that they're tuned in right now to 2 of the most influential voices in Central Florida on Monday Night Podcast, Brother Love and Greg Jackson, the dynamic duo guaranteed to raise your IQ 20 to 15 points. I did that backwards. I meant 15 to 20 points. You got to go down to up.
Gotta go up.
And sometimes Brother Love, you do 25 to 30. If you want to be a part of tonight's show, all you got to do is hit 407-921-6195. Again, that's 407-921-6195 to speak to 2 of the most influential voices in Central Florida. Monday Night Podcast, Brother Love, let's get it on.
Well, Brother Jackson, I want you to go ahead, man. Bring us up to speed, Greg. Everybody has probably seen, but if not, have heard about, man, this plane, and was it a Black Hawk helicopter?
Yeah, a Black
crash?
Hawk.
And
It's
it's sad because was it 67 people that lost their life?
yeah, in total. So Last week after the show ended, we all came about some horrible news, some horrific news. In Washington D.C., there was a plane landing, a regional jet coming from Wichita. On that plane, there was some national figure skaters, some young people, their families, their coaches, along with some other travelers. And as they were beginning to land, Brother Love, and as I heard this, I just thought about myself when I'm traveling back, and when you're traveling back, the time that we look forward to the most after we've had a great trip is coming home.
Mm-hmm.
The pilot, they flick on the lights, you start to sit up in your seat, you buckle your seatbelt, you're looking out the window, hey, we're almost home. But these people didn't make it, Brother Love. There was a Black Hawk helicopter that in this area, which Reagan International Airport is actually one of the more busier airports in the country, built to handle 15 million. And they're up to 25 million right now. Congress had recently approved more flights coming through that area. But as they were landing, this Black Hawk helicopter evidently was higher in terms of altitude than what it should have been, and it collided with the plane. The air traffic controllers were actually in communication with the helicopter and was telling them to look out. And apparently, some of the early indications are that the pilot may have been looking at a different airplane, but nonetheless, it led to a horrific tragedy, Brother Love.
And so, Greg, I did see that recovery efforts were still underway, that they had recovered, I believe, maybe 50 or so victims, and they still were.
Still working.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a search and recovery mission now.
So Greg, you kind of described, based on some of the reports that have taken place, of what went wrong.
Yeah.
But there's some other aspects that, and again, we're only listening to what's being reported, that the air traffic controllers possibly were short controllers.
Well, that's no doubt. It has been widely reported, and I believe confirmed, that the air traffic controller who was actually handling the aircraft and the helicopter at that time, it should have been one handling the aircraft, one handling the helicopter, but he was handling both. But the bigger issue or the bigger concern is, shortly after this tragedy happened, and I don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg on this, Brother Love, or the question or the response that came first. But immediately after this happened, one of the questions that came out was, do you think, or you said in the past to President Trump, you said in the past that, that there have been some DEI hires. Do you think DEI hires had anything to do with this tragedy? Now, I think the question was misplaced, and I think the answer, although it sounded worse when I heard other people say it, and I had to go back and listen to it myself, I think that the answer should have been tempered a bit more under the circumstances.
And I agree. I agree 100%. Especially, man, when you're trying to get information.
Yeah.
But then beyond all of that, you're looking at families that have lost a loved one.
Right. Yeah. And the response, because I know that Let's Talk Nation is smart, and they're wondering, well, Greg, what the heck was the response? Or Brother Love, what the heck was the response? The response was, I don't know, it could have. And listen, that's an honest response, true response. I think that the better way to respond to that would have been, if you're going to say, I don't know, it could have, the follow-up should have been, but at this time, we need to focus on this tragedy and the people whose lives have been lost. I don't think that DEI had anything to do with this tragedy, although I know that a lot of people have said that there was some law that went into effect or some memo that President Obama wrote or that Biden had put in place that had promoted DEI hires. But really and truly, what that law did in 2012 is it basically said that individuals individuals should be given more opportunities to work in these positions, but that they still had to meet the same rigid criteria and standards of every other air traffic controller. So it did not lower the standards, just said that more should be given the opportunity. But what it also did was, as opposed to just experience, it also gave biographical consideration to individuals to be considered for these jobs. But again, it did not change the standards or the qualifications to become an air traffic controller.
Greg, I'll say this, and you and I, we had just a brief conversation before we came on the air. Greg, the accident had just taken place.
Mm-hmm.
In respect to families, and in respect to getting better and accurate information, man, I'm just blown away that we went that far, that fast. But our hearts heart goes out to the family members, and again, that was a horrific accident. But then, Greg, a few days later,
Yeah.
What is it, medevac?
Metaflight, something like that. Yeah, in Philadelphia. Unfortunately, but thankfully, there were only 6 individuals that were killed in that unfortunate accident.
In a residential.
I was gonna say, yeah, it happened in a residential area. It could have been a whole lot worse. In much the same way that the incident in Washington could have been a whole lot worse. But listen, there has not been a airplane issue of this significance in the United States. I believe I heard since 2009. I mean, this was the first one. I'm talking about the one in DC, because we've had like the smaller
Yeah.
that have been involved in accidents, but the one in DC hasn't been anything like this since 2009. So one, and listen, I don't want to be the one in any of those years, but one every how many every years that is a testament to the incredible job that air traffic controllers do, and the tremendous amount of stress that they're on. They are required, Brother Love, to be 100% correct at all times to be successful.
And you just mentioned it when you said Congress authorized more traffic. So just out of the Reagan International, how many flights you say?
Well, it's supposed to handle 15 million visitors per year, and I think that I heard that they're up to 25 million.
So that is
and they have approved. Yeah, they have approved for there to be more. But listen, being an air traffic controller is hard. I mean, that's when Reagan was president. There was a crisis with air traffic controllers. To finish or to complete the training to become an air traffic controller is a 5-month program. However, to be prepared to sit and to really and truly be on the job, they say it takes anywhere from 5 to 6 years.
Boy.
And so the stress of the job, the amount of time that it takes to get trained up to be in the tower is what is contributing to the low number of air traffic controllers that we have in this country. But it has nothing in my mind to do with DEI. If it was a DEI issue, then we would have more there.
And I agree.
Because then, there would be more people of whatever hue, shade, color, background that would be in those positions. But it is just a hard, stressful position. And listen, I know people say, oh, you're in a tower, you're just telling people point here and go there. It is complicated.
Well, and I don't know anything about it, Greg, but I would just imagine when you talk about the complexities of the equipment that you have to monitor on a regular basis, and automation helps, but it doesn't do your job for you.
It does not. It does not. There's nothing like the human mind and the human hands and the human eyes being a part of the situation.
Great, we got quite a bit to talk about, and I want to shift gears a little bit. Here's one that I want you to thrust yourself into this one, because this is all we've been hearing about, and it came quickly, and as quickly as it's come, you're gonna give us an update on where it's going. But I'm talking about none other than the tariffs. and tariffs that I don't know, Greg, if I'm using the right tense, if you would, that were imposed or were scheduled to be imposed like yesterday.
And may still be imposed.
Yeah. So, but Greg, we're talking about Canada, we're talking about Mexico,
China.
and China.
Yeah. So, one of the biggest issues that Donald Trump brought forth in running this last time was, number one, the economy, and also border security. He recognized, and he made it very clear, that our neighbors to the north and our neighbors to the south have a tremendous responsibility to help to secure the U.S. border. And so as a part of that, he basically said, hey, listen, if you all are not going to help to secure the border, we're going to impose tariffs on your countries. In addition, China, because a great deal of fentanyl comes from China, which is becoming an epidemic in this country as well. China is responsible for having and putting fentanyl into our country, which is a major issue. So he also imposed a tariff against China, 25% tariff against Canada, 25% tariff against Mexico, 10% tariff against China. Now, what does it mean to have a tariff? Basically, what a tariff is, it means that in order to bring those goods into our country and to put them into the stream of commerce, you have to pay more to bring those items in. Now, the individuals, the companies that are bringing them in, the retail stores, the automobile industries, the electronics industry, the ones who are bringing those products in, they're the ones paying that upfront cost. Now, what do they do?
They got to pass it along.
So what do they do with that upfront cost? All of a sudden, hey, Joe Citizen is paying more at the gas pump, paying more to buy a car, paying more to get electronics, paying more to get precious metals and everything else because of these tariffs. And so basically what Trump said was, listen, it's going to hurt for a little bit, suck it up, but we got to get through this. And, I think that most Democrats should have been happy because, they said that we didn't have high enough prices when Joe Biden was president, so we should have been happy if we just got to pay a little extra more because nobody really was affected this past term, but I understand. Did you hear that too?
I heard that. So great. This
Did you
was
believe
initial.
so? That's the, so you jumped over that too fast. Did you believe it?
No, I did not.
Yeah, okay.
I did not. But great. When you see that this was supposed to be started, and now,
Tomorrow. It's supposed to be started tomorrow.
but there's already been an announcement on a.
That has been paused for 30 days as to China and as to Mexico. Listen, this is what everyone has been saying about Donald Trump since he first began to run back in 2016 and while he was in office the last time, that Trump is a negotiator. He's a great negotiator. They knew, and people who know these things much smarter than me, they know, and they've said that, hey, listen, even if it does go into place, Trump knows that he has these people over the barrel, and they're going to fold to these talks about tariffs. And lo and behold, Canada calls. He speaks to Trudeau, who doesn't like Trump, who Trump has.
Trudeau on his way out.
Yeah, Trudeau's on his way out. And a more conservative form of government is coming into Canada, believe it or not, that's going to probably line up more with Donald Trump, and Trudeau, who Trump lovingly referred to as the governor of the 51st state, which I'm not sure he didn't like that too much. Basically said, hey, listen, let's have a conversation about how we can better secure the border. And then Mexico calls. The president of Mexico, she calls Donald Trump after saying we're going to impose our own tariffs, and she says, hey, let's have a conversation. So there's been a pause on the tariffs for 30 days to see what can be done. So,
But Greg, I mean, from a business perspective, wouldn't you consider that a negotiation tool?
absolutely.
The way it all took place.
And listen, many folks, even with the pause in it, many folks are considering this to be a win for Donald Trump. And so they're saying that, like or dislike this guy, he's already having a major impact on border security, having a major impact on how folks are contributing to the betterment of the U.S. The other thing, too, when Trump said that he was going to take over the Panama Canal, people thought that he was crazy. I thought that he was crazy. Not in a bad way.
Yeah.
Panama Canal Zone, they basically said, there's no way that we're giving up the Panama Canal Zone. But hey, whoa. We're going to allow our agreement, our development agreement with China to expire, meaning that China will no longer have any say in the infrastructure of Panama. So while no, Trump does not, or the U.S. is not taking over the Panama Canal, China is no longer going to be investing in the infrastructure of Panama. And Panama is not saying we would love for the U.S. to be a part of investing in the infrastructure of Panama, which is the way I think it should. I've been to
So it opens the door.
I've been to Panama. Yeah, listen, they're saying that too is another win for Trump. This negotiation tactic of scorched earth, beat me to the bottom if you can, appears to be working from that perspective. Now, listen, folks aren't going to like him no matter what he does. I'm not, I've never really been a big fan of Trump as an individual, but listen, if this is going to put America in a better position, to get things done, listen, let him do his thing for a little bit.
And I mean, and it all comes back down to Greg, economics. And yeah, we've heard the talking heads saying, tariffs will hurt United States right now, but at least you see a level of negotiations with other countries right now.
Absolutely, that are coming to the table, that are taking this seriously. I don't think that they took the U.S. seriously for the last 4 years. That's why a lot of things were happening that are having to be reversed. But let me take a side step, Brother Love, because I know that you will appreciate this as much as I did. The person who basically went and knocks on the door of the Panamanian president and who brought this particular deal to bear. Listen, where do we start? I don't even mind saying that he graduated from the University of Florida. I don't even mind saying that he graduated from the University of Miami's law school. I don't even mind saying that he is a former state representative.
That's right.
For the Florida House. I don't mind saying that he's a former president. He's the president of the
House.
For Florida.
Yes.
I thought that was president.
No,
speaker. Okay. All right. So yeah. So he was that. I don't mind saying that he is or was up until a couple of weeks ago the senior senator here for the state of Florida. But this is what I want to leave in everybody's ear. Marco Rubio, a native Floridian.
Florida.
A native, listen,
Miami.
a native Floridian
Yeah.
that is doing these things on a huge national scale. Our president, for the first time, we have a president who is homestead in the great state of Florida. Brother Love, now is a great time to be, not because of the positions that are here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying because of the people, but because of the positions that are here. Secretary of State, President of these United States, they are residents of the great state of Florida.
And Attorney General.
Listen, the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, my former, the former Attorney General when I was with the agency.
United States Congressman, former United States
Waltz.
Congressman Waltz.
Yeah.
What is it Homeland Security? Or?
No. What's the guy? Holman is over Homeland Security. He is director, but I know what you're talking about. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, so listen, Florida, in terms of power structure right now on the federal level, is calling the shots.
And you can't say all that without also saying the chief of staff, Susie Wiles out of Jacksonville,
Yeah.
Florida.
Listen, I'm telling you, forget the party. All right, forget that it's the Republican Party, and unless you're a Republican, and that's fine. I'm not knocking that. Forget the names, or if you like the people. In terms of positions of power, the state of Florida right now, Brother Love, is on 10.
You're right. And you know what I'm curious about?
What's that?
I'm curious about, and you're always going to have historians looking at the record books and things of that nature. But Greg, I am really curious, in the history, has there ever been the heavy concentration of individuals that get presidential appointments in the cabinet that are so concentrated from one state, like the state of Florida, which happens to be what, Greg, the third largest state in the union right now?
I mean, it's third largest state in the union, but it's the greatest state in the whole world, if you ask me. But yeah, I mean, I can't think of a time. When Jimmy Carter was president, I can't say that Georgia had an influx. I mean, California, when Reagan was president, I can't say that they had, that type of, but even Bill Clinton, because Bill Clinton, when he was president, I forget who was Secretary of State, but his Attorney General was Janet Reno from the state of Florida. I can't think of a time when we've had a state that has as much power right now as the great state of Florida. So.
Hey, you're tuned in to Let's Talk Nation. If you'd like to call in, please help yourself. Area code 407-921-6195. And Greg, I got one for you.
What you got?
Now, we talk about segues and transitions all the doggone time.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how to segue to the question about Elon Musk.
You don't. You just jump right into it, because there's no way to get to Elon Musk. There's no way to segue into Elon Musk except just to go there.
So let's go.
Yeah. All right. So the question is, brother, that a lot of folks are asking, and I don't know if I'm wondering myself or not just yet. I'm still on the fence. But the question is, who's running the government right now? And it appears, to a lot of folks, that Elon Musk has quite a bit of influence over Donald Trump right now. The fact that he and Vivek Ramaswamy, which I think Vivek Ramaswamy has stepped away from DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, has stepped away because I'm understanding he's going to be running for governor of the state where he is out of. And so Elon Musk is, I believe de facto the head of this quasi-governmental agency that is looking at the efficiency of governmental agencies and making recommendations about, who should open, who should close. Case in point, the USAID, which is an aid organization that the State Department has now assumed control over, with Marco Rubio being the acting administrator of that agency right now, and the directive has been, per Elon Musk, because he tweeted it, is that they're getting ready to shut and close this agency down.
Greg, here's one for you. And you and I, we've been around for some time now. We found ourselves just trying to be students of what we talk about.
Yeah.
Greg, I've heard in all my many years about looking at efficiencies in state government.
Yeah.
I've heard about efficiencies in local government.
Yeah.
But Greg, this is the first time, and maybe I just haven't been listening like I should, but when you talk about efficiencies at the federal government level, Greg, you're talking about something so large and humongous. I've never heard of it.
Listen. When you talk about efficiency on the government level, are you talking about a real thing first off?
Cool.
But that's the first question I have.
So, what DOGE stands for
A Department of Governmental Efficiency. Yeah.
So, do you believe that this is something that they're going to get their arms around to any degree? Because it's so humongous, man. It's almost like turning a ship. Where you know how long it takes to turn a battleship.
Oh yeah, it takes a while.
So but there's a lot of conversation about it, and I didn't know Vivek kind of stepped to the side.
Yeah, that's my understanding now. That's my understanding.
What state is he out of? You remember?
No, not right now.
Okay, I know Doc is gonna probably look it up.
Yeah, so
I don't know. I don't know.
you came in just to say that?
Man, I'm listening to y'all, and what I can't understand is how are they able to do all this stuff and none of it is passed through Congress?
Now, which stuff you talking about now?
With
Because there's a lot of stuff we done laid out there.
I mean, that's like me and you going into and accessing government files.
Which part now? Which one?
With Elon Musk, with this the U.S. aid and the treasury.
Listen. So the president can determine who his advisors are. He can have advisors. Those advisors, they have to go through security clearances and things like that. They don't necessarily have to go through confirmation if they don't hold an official position over an agency, but they can have a security clearance to access up to certain records. Now, remember, Elon Musk has said he wants an office in the White House, and they've said absolutely not. Absolutely not. So while he may have the ability to access certain records as an advisor to the president, it is limited to what he has access to. And they are absolutely trying to make sure that Elon Musk is not stepping into that White House to garner any more influence than what he already has, in my opinion.
So Doc, did you just say, none of this is past Congress? Is that what you said?
Well, my understanding is the funding, like on the what are they talking about? I want to say on the withholding funds. The president can't willy-nilly just do that because Congress allocates those monies to those agencies, and it's up to them to control that.
And I believe you're correct, Doc. But here's the thing that I don't have clue the first about, and Greg, maybe you may, and I'm sure you know more than me about this part, but we've seen president after president, Republican, Democrat, that exercise the use of executive orders.
Yeah.
How strong are those? I don't know.
Very until they're challenged, and the Supreme Court determines that they don't have the ability to do so. So if no one challenges Donald Trump and says, "Hey, you don't have the authority to do it," who was that? Who used to watch? Raise your hand if you used to watch Real Housewives of Atlanta.
Hey, come on now. Everybody got
raise your hand, Doc.
I don't like that crap. I don't like that kind of crap. I know.
But there's one person on the show, and Brother Love, you'll appreciate this, Doc. Doc, you're gonna appreciate this too. But there's one person on the show that said, "Who's gonna check me, boo?"
Listen. Okay, take for example the birthright citizenship. Now that's enshrined in the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. Okay,
it's being challenged in the courts, yeah.
Right, but he had no authority to even issue that. He's trying
as an executive order. He did it as an executive order.
I know, but it's still he cannot overturn. So literally, they're saying we can overturn the Constitution with an executive order.
But now it's being challenged, though, Doc.
Yeah, but now remember, even with regards to the immigration issue on the border, former President Biden actually said that you're no longer his administration, I don't want to say him because I want to be fair to the position, but his administration said that you can no longer apprehend individuals who are in this country. Now, really and truly, that is a violation of a federal law. If someone enters into this country illegally, you should be able to remove this from this country. But the president
Exactly.
signed an executive order that said that you could not. And that agency, what happened? That agency did not do it.
But see that's why I see our government as very dysfunctional right now, because they're not doing their jobs in the manner we supposed to have checks and balances. That's why you got the three branches of government to check each other, but nobody's checking. You know, we just kind of looking and standing up there, kind of okay. Let's see what he do this week.
So,
Let's see
Doc,
what he do next week.
Is it government that's dysfunctional, or is it the individuals that we put our trust in to lead
Well,
dysfunction?
I think we've allowed them to be so dysfunctional for years and return the same people back that now we have no control over. As the electorate, we have no control over them. They don't fear anything from the public.
Now,
You know, that's
I mean,
like-
it-
that's
it
like
depends-
DeSantis
it depends
saying-
on where y'all on that one, Doc. It depends on where y'all
Well,
on that one.
that's
because
like the
some-
governor
some-
saying
some-
he's gonna primary people that
right,
wouldn't.
right. And that's what I was gonna get to.
Yeah, and so he, for all intents and purposes, I ain't gonna say that on the air.
But listen, I mean, but listen, there was a congressperson in Michigan, if I recall correctly, that was
Yeah.
a very safe seat. That was primary that lost. And you know, I think that in the right conditions and with the right electorate, that they can come together and they can make things happen. Now, the only electorate, Dr. Lang, the only electorate that the Democrats can rely on that will not go against them is the black voter.
Yeah.
But in all these other areas, Democrats, Republicans, they shaking their boots if they start to hear certain communities say we're not happy with what you're doing. If we in the African American community say we're not happy with what you're doing, what they say, well, what you gonna do? Vote Republican? What you gonna do?
And you're right. And you're right.
You know?
And you know what?
And,
Doc?
and I tell them yes.
But it's not enough of us. You know, it's not enough of us who say that or
As a
those who
block.
say that.
As a block.
Well, we
do
can
it
stay
to an
we can
extent
stay
that
home
changes
as
it.
well.
Right, but until this election, I don't think that they took, and it wasn't the black vote in totality that did it. It was the African American male voters that went against the black female voters that made things happen, and not because we voted, you know, millions upon millions, but because a lot of us stayed home,
Yep.
and a lot of us, and a good percentage, what was it, 17% or 20%,
It was 20,
decided to vote Republican. I mean, that still
23 to be
leaves
exact. Yeah.
80% of black male voters that did something else.
Well, I think one of the problems too is, you know, we every 4 years, every 2 years, we hear about voter education,
Mm-hmm.
and that don't mean a damn thing in our community, because most people, I have seen so many people ask, who should I vote for at the local level? They don't even understand the issues nor the candidate's position or ability to work on their behalf.
Well, Doc, you know what the problem is with voter education?
What's
the
that?
Real problem is, the real
What?
problem with voter education is that they're not educating us on the issue. They're educating us on which Democrat to vote for.
Right. Because
They're not
I
telling us, look at this issue. They're telling us this is why you need to vote for this Democrat. And no, because I've seen it, I've sat through it. And that's what they do.
I've seen it too. I've seen candidates literally go to people's house with that sheet and say, "Here's our slate. Vote.
Yep.
This who you vote for. Take it in the voting booth with you. This your cheat sheet."
Yep.
Okay, so Doc, but that leads us to this. Is the black community ready and positioned for the future? And if we say the future, if we just say the
Ooh,
future,
look at that
specific-
segue. I gotta give it to
You
you.
give me that one.
Oh, I gotta give it to you.
but even if we talked about the very near future of the next 4 years, what is the black community going to do? Because a lot of what I've heard is the issues. I mean, talking about the issues that's right in front of them, but not talking about any per se solutions
Right.
and negotiations. Looking at how do you work through the system?
Hey, now hold on. Now, listen. In order to negotiate, you gotta have what?
You gotta have something to negotiate with.
You gotta have some power.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And the only power, unfortunately, the only power that African Americans have is their vote. That's it. We don't have anything else really that we bring to the table. We don't have any economics that we really bring to the table. Not anything that's concentrated. We don't have any technology or anything to a large degree that we bring to the table. So the only thing that we have of significance and power that we bring to the table is our vote, and we're giving that away. We're just giving it.
Well, that's not even a power anymore, because other groups are countering it out.
Well, and
And-
Doc, to
and
your
so-
point, but to your point, let me say this: when you say that's not even a varying tool right now, when you look at this last presidential election, and Greg, you kind of hit on it when you talked about black males being sought after and turned out at 23%, but you got to also take into consideration it was the Hispanic vote that took this election over the top, not counting that 23% of black males.
Yeah.
So it
Well,
further-
exactly. So if we continue to vote in the same patterns, and other groups see the virtue of spreading their votes out, and they can tip the scales of power, then our vote means nothing. It has no value other than at some local level. And that's what we're facing right now, because we don't have anything else to bring to the table.
Yep,
We
that's it.
we have no capital, we have no infrastructure, we don't own anything as a collective other than our vote, like Greg say. You know, you hear the $1.3 trillion purchasing power,
power, yeah,
but we can't even do a partner. That's what Jamaicans call it. You know, where they share money
Yeah,
and stuff.
yeah, I
We
know
can't
what
even
you're
do
talking
basic partners without fight starting. You know, so what do we do at this point?
So what is the remedy? What's the remedy?
I mean, listen, I think to Doc's point and what we're talking about is that if we're going to focus on voter education, it needs to be true voter education and not going in and trying to influence someone to think your way. And you know, when the Democratic Party sent people to a voting form that I moderated, and the people sat there and they said that we need to vote for Amendment 4, which was the recreational marijuana amendment, because we need to vote for this now because too many of our black males are going to jail. I was like, I've never been to jail and I don't smoke weed, so that's not an issue that's of importance to me. But because the Democratic Party told you to come into this church and say that, you think that I'm gonna go along with that, and I'm not. I'm not.
Every Democratic approach to the black community in the last 60 years has been based on what? Emotion. Nothing about what they approach us about is about real intrinsic value. They've appealed and manipulated our emotions.
Yep.
Oh, too many people incarcerated. Come vote with us and we'll free them. And we keep falling for the banana in the tailpipe. And
Heard that in a
so,
while, yeah, but you're right though.
you know, and so when are we going to wake up?
So here's what I'll say to you when you talk about the wake up part. Past performance,
Dictate
it gives you some predictors of future outcomes.
future. Mhm.
And if we've been talking about, I'm gonna just shorten it up a little bit. We've been having the same conversation for the past 20 years about the African American community mobilizing to get something done. Whether it's and the majority of the advocacy has been Democratic, even though, you know, I would say you got to look at what your interest is. So here's where I'm at, Doc and Greg, on this part. If you look at the lack of performance, and I think maybe one of the peak performances was when Obama ran as president from the black community in terms of voter turnout.
Yeah.
So you haven't seen anything like that since Obama. And then you put all this investment and energy into saying to the black community, come on out, I can serve your interest best, but you still see the past performance.
But that was largely emotional. The whole Obama,
Completely. That was completely emotional.
that was completely emotional. His entire 8 years. I'm saying from the black perspective.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he didn't do certain things, but I'm saying the majority of African Americans voted their emotions. And that was the critical issue for them, and the only issue. And we got to understand that we can't get different outcomes until we do different things.
Well, one of the first things we got to do different, I think, and just my opinion is, and we got to stop fighting each other so doggone much.
I mean, listen, that's not gonna happen. But there's nothing wrong with a little debate as long as we're getting the true education that we need. And
Well-
again, I'm gonna go back to this and say that when we talk about, you know, who's the best person to serve a community, we have to stop looking at it from the standpoint of a party. This person is in this party, and so that means that they're gonna do right.
Yeah.
But that is not what that means
You're right.
at all.
You're right.
Yeah, because Orlando had some of the most incompetent Democrats I have ever seen in my life.
I'm not gonna
I mean, literally.
yeah, I'm not gonna disagree.
And you know, bringing me a fan in an air conditioned church. Okay.
Because
By-
that's
by-
old school. That's how they used to do it. That's
Hey.
how they used to do it.
But giving me a chicken dinner at the senior center.
That's,
And a book bag?
That's the thing that does it.
To get my vote.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want to have these conversations, but I mean, think about that. Your vote is worth a chicken dinner. And it's
And
issues
that-
in our community and that we don't want to talk about. One of them is that we keep talking about let's change the laws of incarceration. How about we teach our kids how to avoid being incarcerated? See, that's on us. We need to, you don't fault the person that's doing something to you. You learn how to defend yourself from getting to be the person that get got.
Right.
And we're
So
not
listen,
doing
Doc,
that.
Listen, when you talk about, and you just made me think about something. When you talk about that's on us, and we should do things for ourselves. There's another story that came out, and I'm glad you're on because I think we can wrap up these last 10 minutes on this discussion. But there's a report that came out that that the Trump administration, this current administration, has now put a pause on a number of cultural and events or ethnic events and different things like that. And one in particular is they're putting a pause on the recognition or the celebration of MLK Day. They're putting a pause on the recognition and the celebration of Black History Month. But to the same note, they're also putting a pause to the celebration and recognition of Pride Month, of Hispanic Heritage Month, of Asian, Pacific Islander,
Women's Health Month, all that stuff.
yeah. And so the reason they're doing it, and listen, if this is why they're doing it, I like it. As an American, I like it. But the reason why they're saying they're doing it is because they want to celebrate American history despite the race, creed, or color of the Americans who have contributed to the history.
Well,
And if
first
that
of
is
all,
true, I don't have a problem with it.
okay, but the problem with that is the history that they tell is the history of lies.
Well, it depends on who you're talking to. Because
No,
when
it
I
don't.
was coming up,
Fact
when
is
I was
fact.
coming
It don't
up-
depend on who's saying that.
But listen, but this is the point that I wanted to make also when we say we got to do it for ourselves. Because to me personally, I don't think that it's up to the government or to the schools to teach my kids about the significance and the contributions of African Americans. And when I was coming up, and you probably had the same because
Yep.
I think you came up, we had no MLK Day. We had Black History Week. And I remember at age 7, 8 years old, my parents had a friend named Stanley who came in from DC in January. And Stanley said, "This is MLK's birthday. Y'all ain't going to school." And we didn't go to school. We celebrated and we recognized that date. And that's what our parents taught us. So I don't necessarily feel that the government has to celebrate or recognize our history because those are things that we can and should be doing on our own, period.
Exactly. I mean,
So
yeah,
do you
yeah,
think- Go ahead, Doc. Go ahead.
you know, it's interesting you bring that up because though many of those same people that's crying about it, I wonder how much Black history they teach in their homes.
Listen, I wonder how much I wonder what they actually do on those days.
You to the point. Yeah.
I wonder. Listen, on
Go-
MLK Day, I wonder who all is really and truly listening. The Alphas, you know, and I'm sure or other fraternities. There, I only speak for Alpha because I am an Alpha 06. But the Alphas had an MLK forum or a Black History forum. They also had an MLK luncheon. But aside from that, what were African Americans doing in the
Is it-
parade?
is
I'm
it
sorry.
ju- is it
But
just
what
a
were
day off or what?
African-Americans- Exactly. And I think that too many people now are viewing this as just the day off and not really and truly understanding the significance of the sacrifice that was made by not just Martin Luther King, but a lot of folks who contributed to the civil rights movement and the positive move forward for African Americans and people of color.
You know, it's amazing. I can remember. You know where I learned a lot of Black history at?
In the church,
Well done.
Jones High used to have some Saturday school.
really.
Yeah, and so we part of that was the history of Black folks here. I knew pioneers here in Central Florida. You know, I didn't just hear about Harry T. Moore.
The community taught it.
Right. And so,
listen, listen, let me tell you this. The way that I knew and learned so much about Black history, African American history, is because in Tallahassee, Florida, the capital of the state of Florida, every year they had, remember how you had like the Brain Bowl?
yeah.
So I used to be on Brain Bowl too. Now, don't get me wrong, I was across the board with mine. I was good. I also was a part of the Black History Brain Bowl team. And we would go and we would compete with other schools across the county during Black History Week on African American and what we knew about African American history. So the community taught us, and even in our schools, the teacher made sure that we understood the significance of the contributions of African Americans to this country. And I think that we have lost that. I think the community has lost it. I think the families have lost it. And to some extent, the churches are the only place that are tasked with teaching these things, and they're slipping on it as well.
Yeah, these kids don't know about Ralph Bunch. They don't know about James Farmer. They don't know about SNCC and Core.
Are you talking? Oh, yeah.
And they don't know about Barrett Rushton. Most people think that Martin Luther King put all that stuff together when it was a gay brother named Barrett Rushton who was the critical architect of most of the movement.
Yeah.
So as this moves forward, I guess we will really see whether or not if it all of these different heritage months, weeks, if it's valued enough to where it's going to be community mobilized.
This is what I say. Are we going to see people whine and cry about it? Or are we going to see people pick up the mantle and do it themselves? And that's what you're saying, brother.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying the Greg Jackson way, because I don't think that we should be sitting around crying and relying on government to recognize any of our contributions to our role as a community and as a people to this country. And like I said, now, if the real purpose of this is to celebrate Americans, no matter their race, creed, color, for their contributions to this country, and you talk about the Garrett, you talk about the Booker T. Washingtons, you talk about even the James Baldwins and all the literaries and the sciences. If you talk about those things and their true contributions, I'm good with it. But if it's not that, and you're going to forget those individuals or not maintain the truth about those individuals, I'm still good with it because I think that we're responsible for making sure that people know anyway.
Great. To your point, and I gotta say this: when you talk about not sitting on your hands and figuring out how you're gonna advance whatever the issue is, man, I'm just sitting up here thinking, and I'm thinking in the context of what you and I have gotten our arms around in the past. When you think about Ministerial Alliance, and I know Doc was, but I'm not just talking about
No.
but I'm not just talking about a specific faith denomination. Those alliances have all the different denominations that are coming to the table. Just think how powerful it would be if they're having this dialogue and they're doing their pre-planning.
Yeah.
Well, again, do you know that on TikTok you have about 15 white people that teach Black history? They constantly teach Black history.
Okay.
And so we see a difference because I can't remember any white person ever telling me anything about Black history when I was a kid. And they do. And they say they make this statement that a lot of things were stolen from African Americans, patents, ideas, systems, and all of this stuff, and who they haven't heard of or whatever. And the history of HBCUs. So one thing what we don't understand is at the personal level, I think a lot of us get it, Black, white, and everything. Because we don't react that way personal. It's this national conversation overall being stirred up by people that benefit from the division.
Well, I'm gonna say this because I know we run out of time, and you just made me think about this even more. I truly believe when we talk about Hispanic heritage, when we talk about Haitian Heritage Month, Greg, I've seen and you witnessed this. Those folk, they know how to mobilize. Let's see if we know how to do it, and it's not done at the governmental level.
Yeah.
You know that it's done at a community
Yeah,
basis.
listen, do they have a Haitian Heritage Month?
Man, the Haitians
believe
celebrate
so.
everything they
Yeah.
want to celebrate.
I'm saying on a federal.
Oh no, I don't know. I don't think so.
But I see Haitians, I see Jamaicans that have a deep
Yeah.
love of their culture, and they celebrate it. They
Yeah,
don't care. I mean,
yeah.
you know, Haitian flag, they gonna celebrate. They don't care
You're right.
who's a part of it. And
You're
I
right.
think that that's the attitude that we need to have also. Listen, we don't care. We don't care if you're rocking with us or not. We're gonna do this for ourselves. How many other countries send their taxpayer money to other?
Thank you,
countries?
Peter, for that question. That's an excellent
That is
question.
a great
Yeah.
question. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
great question.
But and right now, Trump is moving to block these illegal immigrants from sending that money back to their countries. Did y'all hear that yesterday?
I did not, but I'm not surprised.
Yeah. So you know that's one of the things. And here's what I think.
But listen, hold on. But let's do this though, because I want to be fair to the question in the other countries.
Yeah.
Other countries do contribute aid to other countries. They just don't do it to the extent of the United
Yeah,
States.
you're right.
Yeah.
So I mean, England does it, France does it, Canada. They all contribute to other communities and other countries in some form or fashion. But no one does it to the extent of the United States.
And to Peter's point, though, and I'm gonna say this real quick and use that example. When you look at NATO and the funding of NATO,
Right.
United States almost funds approximately 75% when you got how many countries that are part of NATO?
Yeah,
300?
I can't even think of how many it is.
Yeah. So Peter, appreciate that, man.
Yeah,
great
that's a
question.
good question. Now, don't cut me off the air because I want to address his question in depth. Okay.
Just look at the time and do it quick.
I don't care. You own the network. I told you that last week. Now,
You
so
better get your boy in check. I got to go home and eat. Now, you know, you don't care. My stomach up there growling. You better come on with it.
hey. I know Rod got an extra Snicker over there. Give him one of the Snickers.
Doc, go ahead.
Okay. Here's the thing that people don't understand about that foreign aid, though. Foreign aid doesn't go directly to other governments. It goes to vendors in the United States that provide that service to those countries. That's how foreign aid goes. It doesn't go directly. They don't write them a check and send it over to Zimbabwe. They hire
Sometimes they do see a
very
tax that includes funding.
little.
Yeah.
Very little.
And also equipment also. I think
Yeah.
you forget there's also
Yeah.
equipment also.
Yeah, so foreign aid ain't necessarily going directly in their pockets.
Hey, Peter,
that's
you see
where
how
the
you shake-
industry.
Yeah, Peter, you need to ask your question sooner, man.
Yeah, Peter. See how you shake us up? Hey, tell you what.
Yeah,
keep
'cause
us
we-
on-
Have your
on-
question sooner, man.
Hey.
keep us on track. Doc, we
Yeah.
appreciate you. But Peter, see what you did tonight?
But see, that's a A. But we who are we? Let's Talk Nation.
You're right.
Yep.
And, Let's
And
Talk
what
Nation
we
gotta
do,
pay his bills,
we
too.
increase what? The IQ.
IQ.
That's right. No doubt.
So
Hey.
that's what we doing.
Hey,
we
but
can't
gotta
gloss
watch
over it.
Peter. Peter waits till we get down to a
Yeah,
couple of minutes
yeah,
and then
yeah.
stir us up.
Hey,
But
hey,
tell you
Peter.
what,
Peter, if I don't keep them in check, sometime they'll put lipstick on a pig.
hey, we'll tell you what. Thank you for tuning in to Let's Talk Nation. Hey, Brother Jackson, you do not have to go home.
But you got to get out of here.
Until next week, we'll see you once again.